There used to be a green tower alone on the sea.
So Thunder Force is the new superhero comedy starring Melissa McCarthy and Octavia Spencer. This will be spoiler free, but I am going to touch on some less spoilery things throughout this anyway, this review. I'll start with the plot, and then I'll get into why I feel this movie really just didn't work whatsoever. So it's set now in the 80s, the mid-80s. The movie opens up with this, so it's not any kind of spoiler. There was some kind of blast hit Earth, and then anyone who was sociopathic got abilities. And that's what we know. Now, Octavia Spencer in the movie, her parents died as a result of one of these miscreants, as they get called. She made it her life's work to replicate the genetics and become a superhero and get revenge. Shows you her and Melissa McCarthy as kids, going to school together, growing up together, and then they go their separate ways. And then of course there's a school reunion, they come back together, and Melissa McCarthy naturally plays an absolute moron and goes into the lab and gets the superpowers. This film isn't good. It really isn't good. Save your time, do not watch it. I don't think the movie knows what it wants to be, and that's where I think it falls short. I don't know who it's for. So because it was in the 80s that the miscreant started, and obviously the two characters grew up in the 80s, Melissa McCarthy's still living in them and just references, you know, the 80s so much. It makes sense when she's a kid because that's her life, but then as an adult she just does not grow up whatsoever. She's mentioning Steve Urkel, and these aren't just throwaway references. These are like jokes fully submerged in this reference.
You want to tell me who Urkel is?
What's an Urkel?
Not what's an Urkel, who's an Urkel? It's Urkel's Urkel. Tell her who Urkel is. How do you not? Oh my God. You got glasses and suspenders, you know, and you seem super smart.
Let me search.
You know who Urkel is.
How do you spell that?
You spell it Urkel. Okay, is there more? Are you kidding? Did I do that? Right? Does that ring up? Did I do that? Did I do that? You know that. Did I do?
Kids aren't going to understand whatsoever. And I don't know if it's trying to be a parody, but it doesn't lean into a parody enough because it's coming in now. Marvel is kind of simmered down. We don't have much going on. WandaVision's finished up, and there's, you know, movies on the horizon. So if this had leaned into the parody, I think it might have worked. But the jokes just don't work here. But as soon as you apply the tiniest bit of logic, everything falls apart in this. So number one, Octavia Spencer's character. Her parents were working on how to become a superhero and a miscreant. They died, and then it took her going through school, getting the qualifications, the knowledge, to then do it herself 20 plus years later. So it was nobody working with her parents whatsoever. So I think it's very bizarre that only her parents were the ones that were onto this and were thinking about it as a concept. Secondly, she builds her new lab in, I believe, I can't even remember the city that they're in. I don't even care. The city they grew up in. Melissa McCarthy doesn't ever leave it. She gets a dead-end job, just grows up there locally. Octavia Spencer wants out, but then decides to come back, and this is the place she builds her lab. And as a tack onto that, there's a point where Melissa McCarthy says she has no way of knowing how to get in touch with her, even if she wanted to. When she eventually does, all she does is say her name at security, and she's allowed into the building. That's it. So she must have been able to get in touch with Octavia Spencer this entire fucking time. Whether or not in that building, she could have Googled her and found a building that she's in. That's all she had to do. Jason Bateman's in this movie, and he's good, but he's Jason Bateman. He's the straight man, which starts to lean away from the concept that you get the powers if you're a sociopath, like you got them because of this blast in the 80s. So has he grown up with his powers all along because he's got 2 crab arms and that's it. Nothing happens really with his scenes whatsoever. He's just straight man Jason Bateman with crab arms. But then he says he gets his powers with A radioactive crab bit him and he got the powers. How? Because the blast in the 80s gives it to sociopaths. That's fine. We'll suspend my disbelief so far. You have only 2 people in the world that are killed that were looking into becoming a superhero. Apparently Jason Bateman can get the powers from being bitten by something. It's not quite a superpower, but it definitely does something. That's not been looked into. And they just throw logic out the window for a joke. That's what they do. They throw it out the window every single time that they can make a quick joke. When Melissa McCarthy accidentally takes the chemical to become like a superhero or super soldier to go through this whole Captain America style setup, she's the most ungrateful bitch the entire time. This is Octavia Spencer's life work to redeem her parents. Again, suspension of disbelief. Gonna go employ that just now. Let's just go with it. Her childhood best friend comes in, gets the injection. So Octavia Spencer says, it's now on you. You need to be the one to deal with this. Makes sense so far. That's fine. But then Melissa McCarthy just doesn't want to. Just can't be arsed. Going through the training, doesn't want to be a hero, and just makes it all one huge joke. And Octavia Spencer doesn't seem too bothered about it either. And it is so frustrating to watch. There's a scene, these people are incredibly smart, super smart. They've got the lab, they created all these chemicals to give superpowers, but when it came to their costumes and car, mobility wasn't factored into it. And I know they're going for a quick joke and it's supposed to be funny, but this is what I mean.
Oh boy, I haven't really driven this one.
How can you have it and not drive
Are they
it?
getting in that slowly on purpose?
Oh boy, that's intimidating. Oh.
Maybe squeeze together.
And that's just throughout the whole movie. This is not worth watching. It is not the superhero comedy that is trying to be. It doesn't work. The Marvel movies made comedies, made their superhero movies funny. What these people sounds like they're trying to do is just make a comedy into a superhero movie, and it doesn't work that way. Does not work, and this is the evidence for it. The only times that had me laughing in this movie, genuinely laughing, were the side characters. Kenny and Andrew were 2 of like the henchmen goons. They were hilarious because they're just dry humoured and they bounced off of Jason Bateman really well. But other than that, don't watch the movie. Absolute disaster. Melissa McCarthy is not funny to watch. Neither is Octavia Spencer. I've only ever seen her in Mama, which was weird. And this was the total opposite for her. I'm yet to see a good film with her in it. Anyway, this film is dog shit. Don't watch it.